There are currently 29 maps in Overwatch that are part of the core game modes of quick play and competitive. And I'm going to take all of those 29 maps and make one change to each one of them, starting with the control maps. The Antarctic Peninsula has just received a full rework in Season 2. However, there is one area that I feel like doesn't serve any meaningful purpose. In the previous version of the map, these stairs used to lead to one of the pathways above the point, this window specifically. However, with the rework it seemingly leads to absolutely nothing and to me doesn't serve much purpose apart from being a good place to retreat to if you are on a hero with a vertical mobility. So I think it could be a good change to have a narrow pathway here that leads to some sort of a drop down to an area underneath it. Or at the very least it will make sense to have a health pack here. In my opinion, Busan is one of the most balanced maps in the game. However, pushing through any of these choke points on downtown section of Busan can be a bit too overwhelming. So by adding some sort of a pathway to the roof part of a map could potentially elevate some of those problems. By adding some props that will allow you to jump on this lower roof and then on the upper roof. Here's a fun little fact about Ilios. If you try looking what's behind this wall, you'll find out that there was either supposed to be an additional pathway here, or it's the current pathway that we have here that was copy-pasted for some reason and never removed. So I thought, why not just have a doorway here that players can take if they drop down here, instead of being stuck. Similar to the Antarctic Peninsula, this upper section of Lijiang Garden doesn't serve much purpose, again apart from mobile heroes using it to hide. So I said, hey, why not just drill a hole in the wall so that the inside section of this flank doesn't feel too claustrophobic and it provides more flanking routes. The only thing I always wanted to be changed on Nepal is this pathway here. And no, I'm not saying make this route easier to traverse, but instead just lower this wall here so that heroes can go through the gap. If you know how Overwatch maps are designed, then you are probably aware that you always guarantee to have at least one health pack on the flank route. However, on Oasis Gardens, this pattern fully breaks. As you can see here, you have 3 health packs on left side of the map here. Then there's one big health pack in the center. And for some reason, there are no health packs on this entire right side, making this whole section of a map less appealing to take, especially for the flanker heroes. So it only makes sense to just add at least one small health pack on each side. While Samoa Beach has the opposite problem, where you are almost never going to take this health pack up on the hill outside of the spawn. There is a good chance you may have never even seen it. In this case, it is best to just move it forward closer to Mauga's hut on the right side. Now let's move on to the payload maps. Circuit Royale has also received a mini rework some time ago that added new flank routes and more cover. But what I think needed a change are these stairs for the attackers. You see, it takes awfully long to take this high ground area if you are on a hero without any vertical mobility. And yes, this staircase was also added to make it easier to take high ground. However, it was designed more for the defenders, as you can see it being closer to them rather than the attackers. So what I think will make the most amount of sense is to mirror the placement of this staircase so it's easier and less risky for the attackers. And perhaps add additional stairs here as well. If you pay any attention to what is happening around you on the last point of Dorado, you are able to spot heroes coming through this left entrance that leads to the high ground. And this, in my opinion, is a huge disadvantage for the attackers as it eliminates any chance for a surprise attack by flankers or team push, making last pushes a bit more difficult. Think of it like this, if defenders know where you're going, it's easy to stop preemptively spamming an already hard to push choke point, making the life of attackers miserable. And you can compare it with some other maps and their last points and you'll see that most of them have some sort of flanks where you are hard to see. So the most obvious change here on Dorado is to just make these windows fully opaque. Havana Castle is infamously known for its difficulty of pushing into the last point. Again, there are no easy pathways for the attacking team to seize the high ground on this point. All the pathways that lead upwards require you to essentially go inside the defender's spawn. So the easiest change we can do is to take these props on the right flank and move them closer to this open hole, which all heroes will be able to take. The most annoying part of Junkertown is not just how friendly it is to the sniper heroes, but one area in particular that is absolutely horrendous for wall climbing heroes. Yes, you might already know what I am talking about. This wall. Every time I try to wall climb here, it gets really awkward as the wall climb gets cancelled. And I have to do it again. And sure, I can take other walls, but sometimes you just forget about it, you know? So all I'm asking for is to make this wall just a bit more straight. This pathway on Rialto always felt a bit too awkward for me. If you take it as an attacker and you get spotted by the defending team, there's a good chance you'll get killed here, as it takes quite a bit of a time to walk through this narrow staircase corridor. And I think that combining these two sections and making it an elbow could make this flanking route a bit more viable and interesting in my opinion. Route 66, one of my favorite maps in the game, believe it or not. It's already perfect. However, I just cannot think of any better change than renaming it from Route 66 to this. Hey, I never said that all these ideas are going to be 100% serious. If you go through this flank just before the first point on Shambhali Monastery, then there are no easy ways of jumping onto this high ground, besides using this railing as long as it's not broken or by jumping on a truck and then on the platform itself, which takes too much time in my opinion. The best thing here will probably be to just make this generator bigger next to these pipes, so you can jump onto the platform. Watch point Gibraltar. Well, it's kinda ruined at the moment, so I think it's best to wait until they fix all the destroyed infrastructure before I can comment on what changes should be made here. But anyway, let's move on to the next game mode, Flashpoint. Starting with Atlas, which in my opinion doesn't need any changes except one aesthetical change. Add a reception bot here to make this spawn a bit more alive. We already have reception bots on maps like Oasis and Circuit Royale, so why not have one here, don't you think? On New Junk City, the refinery section of a map could use a little bit of spice in it, or in other words, I think it would have been a neat idea to have some sort of an environmental hazard here underneath. If you end up falling here, there should be some open areas that you can jump or get booped into for a quick and easy death. Something similar to what the Samoa volcano section of a map has. Suravasa. Okay, I'll be honest with you, this fountain and this ceiling grate, whatever it's called, are not aligned, and it's really triggering my OCD. Blizzard, please fix. Wow, that was quick. Let's cover hybrid maps now. Inside the last attacker spawn on Blizzard World, I would add a third exit that leads directly to the left flank as a safer alternative, which will mean we have to say bye-bye to the roller coaster. Sorry. Eichenwald's first point choke point is infamously known for being a pain in the ass to push through. And I think since this place is so old, it would only make sense if this bridge collapsed due to the lack of maintenance, essentially giving it a similar treatment to Gibraltar's bridge. This would limit the movement of defenders on the bridge and make passing through it much easier. There's not much I can really say about Hollywood and what kind of changes I will make to it. The only one that came to my mind is how awkward it is to walk around this section of a map, specifically if I am retreating and have to walk for a bit to reach these stairs. Exposing myself to the attackers and anyone who is chasing me is going to have an easier time, since I am walking in what essentially is a straight line. So in other words, add some stairs around here. If you look at King's Row last point, you'll notice that there are giant containers spread around everywhere. Except for this side of the defender's spawn area. Yes, there is some cover like these metal pillars or narrow corridor here, but otherwise not much else, unlike the other side of this point. So I would most likely just add some cover here in either of these places. If you watched my video on my main channel about the weird Overwatch spawns, you might remember me talking about moving a spawn exit from here. Yes, there is an exit here in case you didn't know. And just moving it forward, since this exit door is not particularly used in most cases. Numbani. Okay, listen, I don't really know what I will do here either. No, it's like nobody ever votes for this map and I've barely played it for the past months. Just like the next map we're going to cover. So the best change I can do is change this poster to something more appropriate. So unlike Numbani, Paraiso is much more hated for a variety of reasons and I can most likely make a whole video about it. But for now, the only change I will do is make this roof flat and maybe lower it a bit and add an elevator so that everybody can take it. Basically just how it works on Dorado. This can help with pushing through this whole choke point by having an equal high ground. And now for the last game mode, Push. This one's going to be a bit of a comedic relief, so bear with me. Colosseo. Unremove the glass! Don't listen to Spilo, the glass was peak content, trust me. Esperanza. I'm going to ruin your day by telling you that this whole wall looks like a face with an open mouth and one tooth sticking out. What can be worse? Well, if we gave it a nose, also known as an open window exit. New Queen Street. As a graphic designer, this text is triggering me. Why is this text all caps? This lettering is not supposed to be used as all caps. Let me fix that for you, Blizzard. Runasapi. I think there should be more llamas here. And that was all the serious and silly changes I have to propose. Thank you all for coming to my TED Talk and I shall see you in the next one.